Left my cheating wife, years later. She's desperate for a second chance. I headed to the hills after learning of my wife's affair. I'm not exactly sure why I'm writing this now, but maybe it will help someone out there. Back in February 2018, I stumbled upon a revelation that shattered my world. My 30-year-old wife was having an affair after 3.5 years of marriage. I held a contract job that required occasional travel, but I mostly worked from home. Meanwhile, my wife, now ex-wife, held a high-paying position as the director of a technical sales firm. We had what I thought was a good marriage, though it became strained due to my frequent trips and her long hours at work. We met 5 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. There was an instant chemistry. Honestly, I felt like I was defying the odds being with such a beautiful and articulate woman. She liked my rough-around-the-edges persona. After a few weeks of dating, we couldn't get enough of each other. We tied the knot after 8 months and moved into a big apartment, saving for a house. The first 3 years were great, but then things started to shift. She began picking arguments over minor issues. Whenever I raised concerns about her late hours and frequent work outings, she got angry. She insisted it was part of paying her dues climbing the corporate ladder, and that I had no right to question her, given my own work absences. I assured her I could reduce my travel, but our arguments never found resolution. In hindsight, I was blind to her affair. I would have never suspected anything if not for her persistently late work hours and the decline in our intimate life. I dismissed her fatigue as work-related, but my self-esteem took a hit from frequent rejections when I initiated intimacy. I remained oblivious to the secret texting, considering she had a company cell phone. Around September 2017, things escalated. Kathy started coming home from work, then heading out to a work engagement for the evening. This went from 1 evening a week to more than 3. I'm not a jealous guy by nature, but this didn't sit right with me. Her focus seemed solely on work, particularly with male executives. My suspicion of her infidelity arose a month before D-Day. She made a stop at the store before returning home and asked for help with the groceries. As I retrieved bags from the back seat of her car, I noticed something pink glinting from underneath the front passenger seat, VDJ, one of her bras. She liked ones from a particular store, so I recognized it instantly. My gut sank. I couldn't rationalize why her bra was there. I just left it and tried to act normal. That evening, I couldn't shake the suspicion. Determined to uncover the truth, I began piecing together the clues, but had no concrete evidence except the unsettling incident with the bra. We live in a big city, and her work is downtown. I decided to give her more attention, thinking maybe that would help. One Friday after work, I made a nice dinner, set up the dining table with candles, bought a nice bottle of wine, and a bouquet of roses. She breezed in after work, and I eagerly pointed out the dinner. Instead of the enthusiastic response I hoped for, she gave a sad smile and said she had plans to meet up with her coworkers at a local hangout. She suggested a quick bite together before she left, then mentioned needing to shower first. My insides flipped, and I became speechless. While she was in the shower, I grabbed my company cell phone and planted it in her back seat. I'd been thinking of this as a way to track her location. I dumped the meal and flowers in the trash. She came back after her shower, dressed up and looking great, and said, "Okay, let's eat." I told her, "Never mind, go out with your friends." She looked at me strangely and asked if I was mad. I said, "I'm disappointed you never want to do anything together." She got angry and told me to quit acting like a child. That night, I tracked my work phone. She stopped at a bar about 20 minutes away. I made an impromptu decision to head out and find her car. It was parked in the bar's lot. Sitting across the street, I waited. About an hour later, I saw her coming out with a man. They kissed, then got into another car and drove to a hotel. I was an idiot. Something inside me went completely blank. I started driving out of town, reliving everything I had just witnessed, overwhelmed with rage and sorrow. I found myself at a bar on the outskirts of town. A guy next to me started up a conversation. His name was Ray, a salt-of-the-earth type. We talked, and the subject of my wife's cheating just tumbled out. Ray said, "Buddy, you are not alone. It happened to me a few years ago. Sometimes these things happen for a reason. Your life can change for the better or worse, it's up to you." Ray's words shook me out of my glum mood. He offered support and suggested I move out, which hadn't crossed my mind until then. He had a travel trailer on his property, and I could stay there temporarily. The bartender, overhearing the conversation, smiled and said, if I could have escaped my crazy ex-husband, I'd have jumped at the chance. I felt like I had stumbled into the twilight zone, but maybe this was what I needed. I told Ray I'd think about it. We made plans to meet at his place in a few days. I felt a bit of perspective and a chance to get out of what I believed was a nightmare. Returning home, Kathy asked about my whereabouts. I turned to her and asked, "Are you having an affair?" She looked startled, then said no. I told her someone I knew had mentioned it. She called me ridiculous, drunk, and delusional. I spent the night on the couch, the weight of her deceit pressing heavily on my mind. I couldn't shake Ray's offer. The next morning, we didn't speak much. A few days later, I met Ray at his place. He had a nice ranch and the trailer was perfect. I made an offer and he agreed. Ray would tow the trailer to his property and set it up. Over the next few weeks, I stealthily moved my belongings to the trailer while Kathy was at work. She noticed a change in me, but it was too late. Kathy informed me of an upcoming work trip. I asked who was going and she listed the executive team and department heads. I said, "I hope you have a great time with your boyfriend." This led to arguing, and I wished I knew more about her affair partner, but Ray had said, "It doesn't matter who the other guy is. It only matters she stepped out on you." Kathy's work trip gave me the opportunity to move the rest of my stuff out. I left a brief note and my wedding ring on the kitchen table. I felt a huge weight lift off me. I felt free. I knew I had some baggage to deal with and hurt to get over, but I had time to heal. I wanted to get her out of my life quietly and quickly. The following week, I took up running again. It felt great to be alive. I ignored Kathy's texts while she was away. The day she returned, my phone blew up with texts and calls. Her mother even tried calling me. After the first few crying messages, I stopped listening. Her texts were excuses, not apologies. After a week, she finally texted, "I'm sorry. I made a mistake." But it just made me dislike her more. Why couldn't she be honest? Her apology didn't sit right with me. Mistakes don't last for 6 to 8 months, maybe even a year. Her pleading for me to come back and work on the marriage became pathetic. She stopped bothering me for a couple of weeks, but then started sending furious texts, calling me a coward, saying I didn't care about us. She begged me to come home so we could talk. I ignored all of it. Finally, I changed my cell phone number. In June 2018, Kathy sent me an email saying she had retained a lawyer and was filing for divorce. I replied, "Okay, sounds good." This led to a flurry of emails demanding I come see her, but she realized it was getting her nowhere. After a while, she wrote that if I agreed to an uncontested divorce, she wouldn't bother me anymore. I agreed, and several months later, I was a free man. I never had to see her after I left our apartment. There was no closure for either of us, but it seemed more important to her than to me. For a few months, I thought of her sometimes, and yes, the pain would appear out of nowhere. A song we used to listen to would trigger memories, but eventually, I stopped thinking about her. Now, I can happily say I'm officially divorced. Things are going well. I met a fantastic girl while out on a run on the trail just down the hill from where I live. I helped her change a flat tire, and we hit it off. She's amazing, cute as hell, and a few years younger than me. She loves my lifestyle and calls me her mountain man. I'm not in a hurry to get serious, but I'm not giving up on women completely. I'm still up here in the trailer. I've simplified my life quite a bit. I love the outdoors. It helped me get over my ex-wife, the heartache, everything. I know everyone handles these things differently. I was lucky not to have children and was only in my 3rd year of marriage, so I did what was right for me. You don't have to live your life with a cheater. If something like this happens to you, don't dwell on it. Move on with your life. It gets better after you work on yourself. In an update, I can say that I haven't had a direct conversation with Kathy since the divorce. I receive occasional emails, but I choose not to respond. About 3 weeks ago, I bumped into a mutual friend who mentioned Kathy wasn't happy. Unlike me, she said my ex told her I would always be the one that got away. If she ever got the chance, she would try to win me back and tell me everything that went on. I didn't press the friend for details, but it was clear Kathy was still trying to find a way back into my life. Then it happened. Last weekend, I saw Kathy in a coffee shop I frequent. I was suspicious it wasn't a coincidence. Luckily, I left before she saw me. But this past weekend, I went to grab groceries and coffee at my usual place. As I exited, I heard my name. Glancing across the street, my heart sank. There she was, waving at me. Stunned, I stood frozen as she dashed across the street. Expecting a hug, I held my arms out with palms facing outward, and she stopped, looking hurt. "Paul, I've been looking for you. Can we talk?" I felt like a trapped animal. Reluctantly, I agreed to talk. We found a bench outside a shop. She started with an apology for the affair, acknowledging that karma had struck her hard after I left. Her company discovered the affair, making her work environment so unpleasant that she eventually resigned. Her affair partner, who had a fiancé CE at the time, was relocated. Blaming her for his relocation, he lashed out, prompting her to disclose the truth to his fiancée, ending their relationship. She started crying. I just sat there looking around. She straightened up and stared at me. I asked her what she wanted. She said she never intended to start an affair, that she was drawn in by the politics and positioning at the company. She thought the affair partner manipulated her with his charisma and power. She believed she was using him as much as he was using her. She was going to come clean with me, especially after I accused her. She hated herself and was trying to medicate with after-work drinking. After I left, she broke things off with him and felt foolish and alone. She believed she had to seek me out to try and make amends. Her intention was to see if we could start over with a clean slate, even though we were already divorced. I stared at her, then roughly summarized our conversation. "How dare you think you can come here and wipe away all the crap you caused? I'm supposed to forgive everything you did to ruin our marriage? I told you before, if you cheated on me, we were through. There is no forgiveness. You destroyed what we had." Realizing I was raising my voice, I saw people starting to notice. She started to sob, grabbed my arm, and I let her cry on my shoulder a bit before nudging her away. She looked up at me. "I deserve all this. Can you at least let me take you to dinner or something? I need time with you that you didn't give me before. Please, Paul. I know you may not want to hear this, but I love you so much." She was overwhelmed, hyperventilating and sobbing. I pulled her up and embraced her, trying to soothe her distress. At that moment, I realized I had broken her heart like she broke mine. We started walking, found a quiet path, and things settled down. I asked her how she found me. She laughed a little, saying she ran into Stacy, who let it slip that she saw me. Stacy spilled every detail. So Kathy started coming to town on her days off to see if she could find me. We went to dinner at a nice place with a patio. I made sure we didn't drink. She expressed a strong desire to stay, but I firmly declined. She begged to see me again, but I was non-committal. I gave her my new email address, but that was it. She wanted my phone number, but I told her no. She would just blow it up with texts and calls. She cried about that. She said she would be back next weekend if I was interested. I didn't say anything. She said she would email me the details. Before she left, I asked if she would forgive me if I had cheated. She said yes in time, with counseling and talking. I considered her proposition, acknowledging that maybe in 5 or 10 years, I might be open to revisiting our relationship. She agreed to wait if that's what it would take. Holding my hands, she looked deep into my eyes. "God damn it, Paul. I will always love you and will do anything to prove it." And then she left. I'm still shook by that. She said it with such conviction. But I can't see myself back with her. Maybe a friend. But I just don't know if we could ever work out again. After that encounter with Kathy, I felt a mix of emotions. Part of me was relieved, another part still hurt, and a small part, a part I wasn't willing to admit, felt a glimmer of something I hadn't felt in a long time, hope. But I had to keep reminding myself of the pain she caused, of the betrayal. It was too fresh on my mind. The next few days were strange. Kathy did email me, as she said she would. She wrote about how she felt, how much she regretted everything, and how she wanted to make things right. She poured her heart out in those emails, but I kept my responses brief and non-committal. I couldn't let myself get drawn back into her web of deceit. One evening, after another long run to clear my head, I sat outside my trailer with a beer in hand, staring at the sunset. The mountains were beautiful, and the air was crisp. This place had become my sanctuary, my escape from the chaos my life had become. The solitude gave me clarity, but it also made me confront my loneliness. I missed the companionship, the shared moments, even the mundane routines of married life. Rye, my friend who had given me this new start, noticed my mood and invited me over for dinner. He and his wife Sarah were good people. Salt of the earth. Over steak and potatoes, we talked about everything but my ex. They knew not to push me on that topic. Instead, we talked about the ranch, the upcoming harvest, and even a bit about politics. It was nice to feel normal again. After dinner, Rye and I sat on the porch with a couple of beers. "Paul," he said, breaking the comfortable silence, "you've come a long way since you first showed up here. Don't let her mess with your head again." I nodded, taking a long sip of my beer. "I know, Rye, it's just complicated. She was a huge part of my life, and now, seeing her again, it stirs up a lot of feelings." He clapped a hand on my shoulder. "Feelings are tricky. But remember, she's the one who stepped out. She's the one who broke your trust. Don't forget that." The next weekend, I had planned to meet up with the girl I mentioned earlier, Jess. She was sweet, funny, and everything I needed at that moment. We went hiking, had a picnic, and laughed more than I had in a long time. Being with her felt right, uncomplicated. But in the back of my mind, Kathy's presence lingered like a shadow. When I got home, there was another email from Kathy. She was persistent, if nothing else. This time she wrote about the good times we had, the dreams we shared, and how much she missed those moments. She asked for a chance to meet again, just to talk. I stared at the screen for a long time, then closed my laptop without replying. I wasn't ready to face her again, not yet. Days turned into weeks, and Kathy kept emailing, each one more desperate than the last. I stayed firm, keeping my distance. Jess and I grew closer, and life started to feel good again. But Kathy's shadow was always there, lurking in the background. Then one day, out of the blue, I got an email from her that was different. It wasn't filled with pleas or apologies. It was simple, almost resigned. She wrote that she was leaving for a new job several states away, that she understood I needed my space, and that she hoped one day I could find it in my heart to forgive her. She said goodbye. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. It was over, truly over. She was moving on, and so was I. As the months passed, Jess and I continued to see each other. She never pushed me about my past, and I never felt the need to bring it up. We focused on the present, enjoying each other's company, exploring the mountains, and building something new. One evening, as we sat on a rock overlooking a beautiful valley, Jess turned to me and said, "Paul, you've been through a lot. I can see it in your eyes. But I want you to know I'm here for you, no matter what." I smiled, feeling a warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. "Thank you, Jess. That means more to me than you know." And for the first time in what felt like forever, I believed it. I believed that I could move on, that I could find happiness again. Kathy was my past, and Jess was my future. As I sat there watching the sun dip below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. Life had thrown me a curveball, but I was still standing, still fighting, and most importantly, still living. The weeks after Kathy J/TM's final email were a strange blend of peace and reflection. I found myself thinking back over our marriage, the good times and the bad. Despite everything, there were moments that were genuinely happy, times when I believed we had something real. But those memories were always overshadowed by the betrayal, the lies, and the deceit. I kept busy with work and continued to enjoy my time with Jess. She had a way of making me forget my troubles, even if just for a little while. We went on more hikes, explored new trails, and spent evenings by the fire, talking about everything and nothing. It was easy with her, uncomplicated, and I realized how much I had missed that. One Saturday, Jess and I decided to take a trip to a nearby town for a festival. The streets were lined with booths selling crafts, food, and all sorts of knickknacks. The air was filled with the sounds of laughter, music, and the delicious aroma of various foods cooking. It was a perfect day, and I felt a sense of normalcy that I hadn't felt in a long time. We wandered through the stalls, stopping to admire handmade jewelry, local artwork, and sampling different foods. Jess was particularly taken with a booth selling handmade soaps and lotions. She picked up a lavender-scented soap, held it to her nose, and closed her eyes, smiling. "VDJNJ, this is heavenly, VGJKJ," she said, handing it to me. I took a sniff and nodded. "VDJJ smells great, you should get it." "DJKJ," she grinned and added it to the growing collection of items she had already picked out. As we moved to the next stall, I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket. Pulling it out, I saw a message from an unknown number. My heart skipped a beat, a sense of dread creeping in. I opened the message. "VDJNJ Paul, ITVJ TM's Kathy. IVJ Temwum in town. Can we please talk? DJKJ." My stomach dropped. How did she find me again? I thought about ignoring it, but part of me knew I had to deal with this. Jess noticed my change in demeanor and looked at me with concern. "VDJNJ, everything okay?" "DJKJ," I forced a smile. "VDJNJ, yeah, just something I need to take care of. Do you mind if we cut this short?" "DJKJ," she looked disappointed but nodded. "VDJNJ, of course. Is it serious?" "DJKJ," I hesitated, then decided to be honest. "VDJNJ at VJTM's Kathy. Chev DJTM's in town and wants to talk. DJK." Jess of DJ Prim's eyes widened slightly, but she nodded. "VJNJ do what you need to do. IVDJTM, I'll head back with you." DJKJ. We made our way back to the car, the festive atmosphere now feeling oppressive. The drive back was quiet, the air filled with unspoken questions and tension. When we reached my place, I turned to Jess. "VJNJ, sorry about today. IVJTML, handle this and then we can." "DJKJ," she placed a hand on mine. "VJNJ, Okay, Paul, take your time. IVJTML be here." "DJK," I nodded, grateful for her understanding. As I watched her drive away, I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. It was time to face Kathy one last time. I called the number from the message, and Kathy answered almost immediately. "VDNJ Paul, thank you for calling. Can we meet?" "There, VJTM, so much I need to say." "DKJ, VDJNJ, fine." "DJKJ," I replied. "VDJNJ, there, DJTM's a diner on Main Street. IVJTML, be there in 30 minutes. DJK." I hung up before she could respond, not wanting to get into a conversation over the phone. The drive to the diner felt surreal, a mix of old memories and new realities colliding. When I arrived, Kathy was already there, sitting in a booth, looking out the window. She looked different, more worn, but still the woman I once loved. I took a deep breath and walked in, my steps heavy with the weight of what was to come. As I approached the booth, she looked up, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and sorrow. "VDDN Paul VGKJ," she said softly, standing up as if to hug me. I held up a hand to stop her, and she sat back down looking hurt. "VDNJ Kathy?" "DJKJ," I replied, sitting across from her. "VDNJ, what do you want?" "DJK." She took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "VDNJ, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you in ways I can VDJTM to even begin to understand. But I needed to see you, to try and make things right. DJKJ. I shook my head, feeling a surge of anger and pain. VG and you can VGATMT make things right, Kathy. What you did, it destroyed everything. There've jicked me's no going back. DJKJ, VG I know. DJKJ, she said, her voice breaking. VG but I need you to understand that I VDJ I'm truly sorry. I was stupid and selfish. I didn't be realize what I had until it was too late. DJKJ. The raw emotion in her voice took me by surprise. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to tell her it was okay, but I couldn't DTMT. I had to stay strong for my own sake. VJ and Tim V moved on, Kathy. IVDTMM trying to build a new life and seeing you, talking to you. It VDJTM's just bringing back all the pain. DJKJ? She nodded, tears now streaming down her face. VD and Jai understand. I needed you to know that I still love you, that I've Tim'll always love you. DK. I looked at her, seeing the woman I once loved and the woman who had betrayed me. It was a confusing mix of emotions, but one thing was clear, VJ, I couldn't attempt to go back. VJ, I appreciate you saying that, but it doesn't change anything. We've are done, Kathy. You need to move on too, DJ. She sobbed quietly, nodding. VJ, I know. I VJ to Mom, sorry for everything. JK. We sat there in silence for a few moments, the weight of our past hanging heavily between us. Finally, I stood up, ready to leave. VJ, goodbye, Kathy. DJKG, VJ, goodbye, Paul. DJK, she whispered, her voice barely audible. As I walked out of the diner, I felt a strange sense of closure. It wasn't VJ Temet a happy ending, but it was an ending. I had faced my past and could now focus on my future. The drive back to my trailer was filled with a mix of relief and sadness. When I arrived, Jess was waiting for me, sitting on the steps of the trailer. She stood up as I approached, concern etched on her face. VDJNJ, how did it go? DJKJ, she asked softly. I sighed, feeling the weight of the encounter lift slightly. VGTM's over, for good this time. DJKJ, she nodded, stepping closer and wrapping her arms around me. VDGNGIVGTM, here for you, Paul, whatever you need. DJK, I hugged her back, feeling a warmth and comfort that I hadn't felt in a long time. VDGN, thank you, Jess. That means a lot. DJKG, as we stood there, wrapped in each other VDTM's arms, I felt a sense of hope. The past was behind me, and the future, while uncertain, held promise. With Jess by my side, I knew I could face whatever came next. Life had thrown me a curveball, but I was still standing, still fighting, and most importantly, still living. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could truly move forward. The following weeks felt like a new beginning. Jess and I grew closer, spending more time together and exploring the possibilities of our relationship. We went on more hikes, cooked meals together, and even started planning a small garden outside my trailer. Life was simple, but it was good. One evening, as we sat by the fire, Jess turned to me with a thoughtful expression. VDJNJ, Paul, have you ever thought about what you want to do next? I mean long-term. DJKJ, I took a moment to consider her question. VJ, and honestly, I haven't thought that far ahead. Right now, I just taking things one day at a time. JK, she nodded, understanding. VJNJ, I get that. But you VDJ, Tim are a smart guy, and I know you VDTMB got dreams and ambitions. What did you want to do before everything happened? JKJ, I smiled, appreciating her curiosity. VDJNJ, well, I always wanted to start my own business, something small, maybe a coffee shop or a bookstore. A place where people could come and relax, escape the chaos of life for a bit. JJK, Jess VDJ Tim's eyes lit up. VDN, that sounds amazing. You should do it, Paul. You VG Tim V got the skills and the determination. DJKJ, her enthusiasm was infectious, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a spark of excitement about the future. VDNJ, maybe I will. It VJTMA is a lot of work, but it could be worth it. GKJ. Over the next few days, we brainstormed ideas for the business. Jess was incredibly supportive, offering suggestions and helping me plan out the details. We spent evenings sketching out floor plans, discussing potential locations, and dreaming about what the shop could be. One day, as we were working on the plans, I received a call from Rye. VDJNJ, hey, Paul. I heard about what happened with Kathy. IVJTMBM. Glad you stood your ground. DJJVVJNG, thanks, Rye. It wasn't by TMT easy, but it was necessary. DJKJ, VGNJ, well, I gave DJJ Tim V got some news that might interest you. There, DJTM, Des, a small storefront in town that just went up for sale. It used to be a bookstore, but ITDJRTM's been closed for a while. I thought you might want to check it out. DJKJ, my heart skipped a beat. VDJNG, seriously? That sounds perfect. IVJTML, definitely look into it. DJKJ, The next day, Jess and I drove into town to see the storefront. It was a charming little building with large windows and a welcoming facade. As soon as I saw it, I knew it was the right place. Inside, the space was dusty and in need of some repairs, but it had a cozy, inviting atmosphere. I could already picture shelves lined with books, a small coffee counter, and comfortable seating areas for customers to relax and read. Jess looked around with a smile. VDJNJ, this is perfect, Paul. I can see it already. DJK. I nodded, feeling a sense of determination. VDJN, yeah, me too. Let VDJTMs make this happen. DJK. We spent the next few weeks working tirelessly to get the shop ready. With VDJTM's help, we cleaned, painted, and refurbished the space. Friends from the community pitched in, and it quickly became a group effort. Finally, after weeks of hard work, the shop was ready. We named it VDJNJ Mountain Retreat Books and Coffee. DJKJ, a nod to the peaceful, serene environment we wanted to create. On opening day, the shop was filled with friends, neighbors, and curious locals. Jess and I worked behind the counter, serving coffee and chatting with customers. The atmosphere was exactly what I had hoped for, DJ warm, welcoming, and filled with the comforting scent of books and freshly brewed coffee. As the days passed, the shop became a beloved spot in the community. Regulars came in to chat, read, and enjoy a break from their busy lives. Jess and I were busy, but it was a good kind of busy. We were building something together, and it felt incredibly rewarding. One evening, as we were closing up, Jess turned to me with a smile. VJJN, Paul, this place is amazing. VJ Timbreed, you've done something really special here. GKJJ. I wrapped my arm around her, feeling a sense of pride and contentment. VVDNJWFJ Tim, V done something special, Jess. I couldn't VG Team T to have done it without you. JKJ. She leaned in and kissed me softly. VDJNJFD Tim, so glad we found each other. DJKJ, VDJNJ me too. BJK, I said, holding her close. VGNJ me too, DJKJ. As we stood there, surrounded by the fruits of our labor, I realized how far I had come. The pain and betrayal of the past were still there, but they no longer defined me. I had found a new purpose, a new love, and a new life. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly happy. Life had thrown me some hard punches, but I had come out stronger on the other side. With Jess by my side and a bright future ahead, I knew I could face whatever challenges came my way. The following months were a whirlwind of activity. The shop continued to thrive, and we started hosting events like book signings, poetry readings, and community gatherings. It became more than just a business. It was a hub for creativity, connection, and support. One day, as we were preparing for a local author VDJTM's book signing, Jess turned to me with a thoughtful expression. VDNJ, Paul, have you ever thought about expanding? Maybe opening another location? DJKG. The idea caught me off guard, but as I considered it, I realized it made sense. VDNJ, that VJTM's not a bad idea. We've DTKMD got a good thing going here. Why not share it with more people? DJKG. We started researching potential locations and found a promising spot in a nearby town. It was a bit of a risk, but we felt confident in our vision. With the experience we had gained from the first shop, we knew we could make it work. The second location opened a few months later, and it was just as successful as the first. We hired a great team to manage the day-to-day operations, allowing us to split our time between the two shops. As the business grew, so did our relationship. Jess and I talked about the future, our dreams, and the possibility of starting a family. For the first time, I felt a sense of stability and hope for what lay ahead. One evening, as we sat on the porch of our home, Jess turned to me with a serious expression. VDJ Paul, they're VJTMs, something I need to tell you. DJK. My heart skipped a beat. VDJ, what is it? JKJ, she took a deep breath. VJ did D to me, I'm pregnant. DJKJ. The words took a moment to sink in, and when they did, a wave of joy and excitement washed over me. VDJ and Jari, you serious? That VJTM's amazing, Jess. JKJ. She smiled, tears in her eyes. VJNG, I wanted to wait until I was sure, but I couldn't keep it to myself any longer. JKJ. I pulled her into a hug, feeling a mix of emotions, VJ joy, excitement, and a bit of nervousness. VDJJ and JoevD, Timberry going to be parents. JKJ, VDJ and J, yes, we are. JKJ, she said, her voice filled with happiness. The months that followed were a whirlwind of preparations and anticipation. We decorated the nursery, attended prenatal classes, and spent hours talking about our hopes and dreams for our future child. When the day finally came and our baby girl was born, I felt a love and protectiveness like nothing I had ever experienced. Holding her in my arms, I realized how far I had come, how much my life had changed for the better. Looking back, I knew that everything I had gone through, VJ, the pain, the betrayal, the heartache of D, had led me to this moment. It had made me stronger, more resilient, and ultimately, it had brought me to Jess and our beautiful daughter. Life was attempt always easy, but it was full of love, hope, and new beginnings, and for that, I was truly grateful. As I stood in the nursery, watching Jess rock our baby to sleep, I felt a deep sense of contentment and peace. This was my family, my life, and I wouldn't TMTT trade it for anything. I knew there would be challenges ahead, but with Jess by my side and our daughter in our arms, I felt ready to face whatever came our way. Together, we would build a life filled with love, laughter, and countless new adventures. And as I looked at my little girl, I promised her that I would always be there for her, no matter what. Because that VGTM, what family is all about, VDJ love, support, and always being there for each other through thick and thin. As the years passed, our family grew and evolved. We welcomed another child, a boy this time, and our lives were filled with the joyful chaos of raising 2 children. The businesses continued to thrive, and we found a balance between work and family that worked for us. Jess and I faced challenges, of course. Parenting was hard, and running 2 businesses required a lot of effort. But we tackled everything together, always supporting each other and finding strength in our partnership. Our children grew up surrounded by love, creativity, and a strong sense of community. They spent their days exploring the outdoors, helping out in the shops, and being part of the vibrant life we had built. Looking back on the journey, I realized how far I had come from the man who had been betrayed and broken. Life had a way of surprising you, of taking you on paths you never expected. And while the road had been rocky at times, it had ultimately led me to a place of happiness and fulfillment. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, our daughter, now 10 years old, looked at me thoughtfully. VJ and J, Dad, how did you and Mom meet? DJK, Jess and I exchanged a smile. VJ and Jet VDJ, TM's a long story. VJKJ, I said. VDJ and Jabut, it VDDM is a good one. DJK VD and J tell us, VJK. Our son chimed in, his eyes wide with curiosity. And so I began to tell them the story of how their mom and I met, how we built our life together, and all the adventures we had along the way. As I spoke, I realized that this story was more than just a tale of love and betrayal, VJ. It was a story of resilience, hope, and the power of starting over. In the end, life was about the people you loved, the moments you shared, and the memories you created. And as I looked around the table at my beautiful family, I knew that I had found my true happiness.